following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with a special 2-in-1 review. And the reason why I say it's special is because what these two Transformers action figures have in common is that they are most likely going to be the final individually packaged core class Transformers action figures that I review on my channel, because starting with the current year of 2025, the core class size of Transformers action figures has been discontinued, and if there are any future core class Transformers figures that get released, they're most likely going to be packaged with larger Transformers figures, the way the Studio Series 86 versions of Ramhorn and Ratbat have been packaged with the Studio Series More Than Meets the Eye version of Perceptor. So, I personally hope that we do get some more core class Transformers action figures. It's been said that Hasbro and Takara Tomy, with so many Transformers characters being released from Armada, such as the Armada Commander class Optimus Prime figure that I'm pointing at behind me, and other characters from Armada being cut out, there's interest in modern day figures of the Minicons getting released. We've gotten two that were both released as exclusives here in the US by Hasbro. But for non-Minicon core class size Transformers action figures, here are the last two that I'm going to most likely end up reviewing on my channel that are sold individually, and they are the Studio Series 86 red version of Frenzy and Autobot Steeljaw. Frenzy, I believe, was released 2 years ago in 2023, and Steeljaw came out last year in 2024. And as you can see here by the top of the packaging, the holder for the pegs on retail stores changed. In 2023, there was still the open clip for pegs to for core class figures to dangle from the pegs on retail stores. And even though it was easier for collectors eager to buy these figures to just pull them out from the side and bring them forward, it was found out that it was also easier for thieves and shoplifters to do that. So starting last year in 2024, we now have the closed hooks, so no, you can't pull it out from the side anymore. So if it's all the way in the back, you have to pull out all the figures off the peg that are in front in order to get to it. So it's interesting seeing those different styles of clips here on comparing Frenzy and Steeljaw's packaging to each other. So focusing here on Frenzy, he is a straight up repaint of the Studio Series 86 Rumble figure that was released. Can't remember if Rumble came out in 2022 or the same year as Frenzy, just a few months earlier, but yeah, it's pretty amazing seeing Frenzy here. And they put the word red on here to acknowledge that this is following the Generation 1 cartoon, in which Frenzy was the red robot and Rumble was the blue robot. That apparently was an error when writing the script for the pilot episode of Transformers Generation 1. Apparently, all along, Hasbro originally intended for the blue robot to actually be Frenzy and the red robot to actually be Rumble. But when the character... so the supposed story that's been circulated around the internet is that when the action figures were presented to the production staff at Umbo Productions, for which Transformers characters are supposed to be given which names, when the time came to give a copy of Rumble to Sumbo Productions, a copy of the blue figure was accidentally given instead of the red one. And to this day in the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon, Rumble is the name of the blue robot, while Frenzy's the name of the red robot. Yet in the line of Transformers Generation 1 action figures, the comic books, and pretty much just about every other area of the Transformers Generation 1 franchise, Frenzy has been the blue robot and Rumble has been the red robot. And so it's been a constant debate to this day amongst Transformers fans and collectors, who is red and who is blue, Rumble or Frenzy, and it's been left open to interpretation. There's been a handful of Chug-style figures that Rumble and Frenzy have been given. Sometimes Hasbro has named the blue robot Frenzy and the red robot Rumble, adding to the further confusion. But for the Studio Series 86 line, Hasbro decided to acknowledge the supposed error in the Transformers Ormer's Generation 1 cartoon, where NZ is the red robot and Rumble is the blue robot. Autobots, so I'm going to be referring to this guy as Frenzy. NZ here. I watched the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon first before I read up in the Transformers comic books and saw photos of their Transformers Generation 1 action figures, and I found out about the accidental name swap that's existed since practically day one of the Transformers franchise. Yeah, this guy will be referred to as Frenzy throughout the rest of the review. So you got some nice artwork of Frenzy on the top using his pile drivers. Here he is inside the box. Open window packaging, which I'm glad is gone now. He's a Decepticon, and they're acknowledging this is the version of him that's red from the G1 cartoon. Got some nice artwork there of his face. You got the same image zoomed out to show him using his pile drivers here. It's the same image on the front onto the box. Authentic Transformers. These are official Transformers products. Since there's now so many third-party action figures, you now have to be told which ones are the official ones by Hasbro. From the Transformers Generation 1 movie, as I call it. So you got Frenzy and his NZ in his robot mode with the pile drivers attached. You can also take the cannons off of his back and have them use as laser guns. And his alt mode is a cassette tape since he's one of Soundwave's minions. And he transforms back and forth between both modes in just 9 steps. So yeah, that is Frenzy inside of his packaging. There's the Transformers, the movie logo. They're on the top of the box. And bringing in Steeljaw. After he was released, there was initial backlash, and it's continued to today, a year after he was released. And for many Transformers fans and collectors, poor Steeljaw here, he is considered the all-time worst core class Transformers action figure that's ever been released. Part of the fact is due to how he transforms. The top back section of him actually detaches, and it's a separate part. So Steeljaw is a parts former. Unlike his Generation 1 action figure, he doesn't fully entirely transform into his robot mode, which is a robotic lion. He parts forms, so that's a bit of a shame there. So because of that, Steeljaw, he's earned a reputation of being a core class size Transformers figure that most Transformers fans and collectors don't really have any interest in adding to their Transformers collections. I try to give the benefit of the doubt after watching all the reviews. I can understand all the criticism due to how Steeljaw transforms and everything. So for me personally, if Steeljaw is the worst that core class Transformers figures could get, then I think Hasbro and Takara did a pretty decent job during the few years that core class size Transformers were on the shelves of retail stores and were available to purchase for the first time on the internet. Because for me personally, even though I do acknowledge that Steeljaw is a lousy Transformers action figure, I don't buy Transformers action figures that I find annoying or ones that I would want to criticize. So even though I wait until the end of the review to ask this question, I do not regret getting Steeljaw and adding him to my Transformers collection. So as lousy a figure as he is, I'm still glad to have him. So you got some artwork of Steeljaw here on the top of the box where he's pouncing into action. Steeljaw's robot mode is not a humanoid robot. He is a robotic lion who transforms into a cassette tape that Blaster uses. And speaking of Blaster, one of Steeljaw's largest accessory piece is one of the loudspeakers that Blaster is able to deploy from his hands. And when he decides to duke it out with Soundwave. And so a lot of Transformers fans and collectors were kind of hoping that one speaker being packaged here with core class Steeljaw wouldn't be the only speaker that would be released. A lot of collectors were hoping that maybe there'd be a way of getting a second copy of this loudspeaker without having to buy a duplicate copy of Steeljaw, just to give a Studio Series 86 Blaster two loudspeakers to deploy from both of his hands. But from what I've seen on the internet, this is the only loudspeaker that's been released. So unfortunately, you do have, if you want to get 2 of the loudspeakers for Blaster, you do unfortunately have to buy a duplicate copy of Steeljaw to get a second speaker. eager. So yeah, Steeljaw has a few more gripes for most Transformers fans and collectors than he has. I just lost the word. Then he has positive aspects to him. So same as Frenzy, you got the Transformers Louis logo here on top. The different style. Aisle of clip holder for the pegs on retail stores. It just means that the Transformers Generations logo and Takara Tomi's logo sit up slightly higher on the front of the packaging compared to the open clip IP style here on Frenzy. Got some artwork of Steeljaw, same one as the front of the box. You got a close-up of his face. Ace here on this side of the box. And oddly enough, the image here on Steeljaw's side of the box, it's rather than being the exact same image used on the top of the box, it's actually a mirrored image. So that's a pretty funny decision that they decided to use a mirrored version of the box art here for the close-up of Steeljaw's face on that side of the packaging. A authentic Transformers logo coming out here at the back of the box. You got Steeljaw on his robot mode of a robotic lion. I'm glad that he still has the cannons and the wings that his Generation 1 action figure came with. And then there's, of course, his alt mode of a cassette tape player. I kind of wish they would have painted both of the openings where the cassette tape would sit inside the player. I wish they would have painted both of them silver instead of just painting one side, because it looks kind of for me it looks really silly having just one of the holes for the cassette tape player are painted gray instead of both of them. And it's the exact same molding on both sides. So yeah, I have no idea why they just painted one when they could have painted both. Maybe the extra paint went into painting the Blaster's loud outspeaker gold, because it is not cast in that gold plastic. It's paint ain't from what I've seen on the reviews. And Steeljaw transforms back and forth between both modes in just 6 steps. And you can see even right here on the images here on his box, you can basically swap out Steeljaw's wings for Blaster's loudspeaker. That's how he interacts with it and why he was packaged with it instead of Blaster. But the wings are attached to the top section of Steeljaw's back. And so when you remove that to attach the loudspeaker, you're basically removing Steeljaw's spinal cord. So yeah, Steeljaw is basically a parts former in order to fully transform into his entire robot mode. So that's why that's one of the reasons why a lot of Transformers fans and collectors have found him to be a disappointing Transformers action figure. And so, for the sake of time, I decided to do a review on both of these guys instead of doing individual reviews. So, the video's gone on longer than I wanted it to. I was trying to keep it under 15 minutes, but I babbled on too much. So, without further delay, let's hurry up and get these guys out of their packages, and we'll take a look at them in the modes that they come packaged in first. So, Steeljaw comes packaged inside his alt mode, so we'll start there. And we'll start off with Frenzy in his robot mode. Alright, and so first up is Frenzy, pretty standard core class action figure. Like I said, he's a straight up repaint of Studio Series 86 Rumble. So if you have that figure, all you're pretty much getting here with Frenzy is the different paint job. Pretty standard articulation. Arms are attached to the torso at ball joints, so they can spin forward and backward 360 degrees. You can have both his arms pointing upward, like he's pretending to surrender to the Autobots. But it's actually a trap. The arms can go in and out at the wrist, but that's due primarily to transformation. Legs are attached to swivel joints, but it's an open swivel here on the back, so be careful you don't move the legs. Probably too much pressure to the legs when you move them backwards, otherwise they'll pop out of the pelvis. Obviously, legs can go forward this far, they can go back this far. Oh yeah, and the head is on a ball joint, so Frenzy can look left and can spin clockwise and counterclockwise 360 degrees. He can look up, but he can't really look down. I mean, he can look down like, I don't know how well if you're going to be able to see it. He can look down 1 millimeter, but that's about it. He can look up more than he can look up down. Legs can go forward that far, backward that far. Sorry if I had it out of shot a moment ago. The knees can bend really far back, but that's only because they're on ball joints for transformation, so he technically has a swivel joint at the bottom of his hip, so you can give him a sprawl-legged position if you want. And the toes can bend upward incorrectly due to how he transforms into his alt mode of a cassette tape. And yeah, that's pretty much it for robot mode. And then to attach the pile drivers, you have to put his arms outward to the side, and then fold away the hands, put him into almost like a scarecrow type position, then attach the pile drivers here, and just like Blue Rumble, the pile drivers are cast in the plastic used that's on the bottom of them. Frenzy's pile drivers are cast entirely out of black plastic. The upper half of the cylinders are red paint, and just like the paint used here on his upper arms, that's red paint on top of black plastic. The black plastic is bleeding out slightly through on Frenzy's shoulders, but it's not quite as bad as it is on the pile drivers series with the pile drivers attached. And for a size comparison, the figure he's repainted from Blue Rumble. So yeah, here are the two Transformers characters who have the greatest shared identity crisis out of all the Transformers characters that have ever been created. And I attached the pile drivers to them based on the sides of the arms they were attached to. So you can either have the lines at the base of the pile drivers, you can see here more on Frenzy, reflecting off my bedroom lamp more with the black plastic. The lines face different directions, but depending on which side you put them on, you can either have them facing the same direction, or if you put Rumble and Frenzy side by side, the sculpted lines on the base of the pile drivers can be they can either face the same direction on both of them, or they can be mirrored images. I don't believe there's supposed to be a left or right pile driver. I believe they're just supposed to be the same, but if you look at the base of them, the pile drivers, they're not two copies of the same one. Because of the different sculpted lines face different directions, there are two variants to them, so that's a really nice thing Hasbro and Takara Tomy did. They didn't just design one pile driver, they designed two separate ones to make it look like as they're pounding the ground, they're also spinning around in order to allow Frenzy and Rumble to do the most maximum damage that they can. Considering the fact that Rumble and Frenzy are supposed to be half the size of Bumblebee and the Mini-Bots, that's really incredible that they're able to cause as much destruction as they do. And for those of you wondering, I believe that the laser guns that sit on their backs, I believe they are supposed to be, yeah, they are the same color. They are the laser guns. They are the exact same color. They're done in the same light gray plastic on both of them. For some reason, for me personally, due to my bad eyesight, there's an optical illusion created where it looks like there's like a brownish tinge to Rumble's laser guns compared to Frenzy, although I'm hoping that's not a yellowing on this light gray plastic used here on Rumble. They look a little browner to my eyes than compared to Frenzy, so I just took out of the box, and I've had Rumble out of his box for the better half of almost 1.5 years now. So I'm really hoping they don't yellow over time. The same thing with their feet. The feet on both of these figures are cast in the same light gray plastic. But yeah, there is Frenzy compared to Rumble in robot mode. We'll get back to them in just a moment. Alright, next up is Steeljaw. Here he is transformed into his alt mode of a cassette tape, and I can kind of see why on the why on this side, which is supposed to be the front side of the cassette tape, I can kind of see why they only painted this one gray and left this one unpainted. It's because on Steeljaw's Transformers Generation 1 figure, his face would flip out from the side, and then his legs would lower down, and then you'd attach his wings, and that's how he would transform. And what they're going for is they're trying to make an optical illusion where this one on gray, a hole for the cassette tape player, it transforms into these two here, and so the idea is it's an optical illusion where this side of the cassette tape transforms into the front side of Steeljaw, similar to his Transformers Generation 1 action figure. So, it's a interesting way of making an optical illusion like that. It's one that I think could have been better if both sides were painted. But that's just my own personal gripe with Steeljaw. There's his one Autobot logo right there. And for accessory pieces, he comes with 3. Here's his robot mode wings, which also, as I said, form his spinal cord and also his tail. So if you don't want Steeljaw to be a parts former, what you have to do is attach the wings like this, and he's a cassette tape with a lion's tail and battle wings sticking off one side, so there's no way you're going to be able to insert it into a cassette player at any time soon, although I don't know if cassette players are even still being manufactured these days. And then there's these 2 accessory pieces right here. This is the attachment piece that allows you to hook Blaster's loudspeaker onto the Steeljaw's back if you desire, and it clips onto this rectangular port. Here on the side, it goes into this rectangular peg here on the top. So attach them like so. And now Steeljaw can have Blaster's speaker sitting on top of him. It uses the same 5mm port that his tail sits on, which is why you have to swap them out. I kind of wish they would have put the same rectangular peg that they do on this connection piece here on the tail. Then the connection piece wouldn't have even been needed. Then you could have just attached it to the tail. But considering the fact that when designing Steeljaw, they were going for trying to find a way of adding added articulation while making it, creating the optical illusion that Steeljaw could still transform in almost the same manner as his Generation 1 action figure. I'm trying to say positive things about this, but as I keep trying to find the words to say them, they keep escaping my mind. So, unfortunately, I'm still coming to the same conclusion as most Transformers fans and collectors, where Steeljaw, he could have been designed much better than what he ended up being. So, out of the box, some of Steeljaw's joints are really stiff, so just be mindful of when you transform his legs and his face for the first time, because his face, it flips out like the G1 figure, but then due to give him, not to make him flat, and give him some depth, his face now splits in half here on the Studio Series 86 figure. So straightening his legs out. And his back cannons in place. So here is Steeljaw as he is with none of his parts attached. And as you can see right there, yeah, that is not a good design for Steeljaw at all. To complete his transformation, you have to attach his spinal cord and lion's tail there on him with the wings, and now he is completed. And yeah, it's been disappointing for fans and collectors to know they have to parts form the latest action figure of Steeljaw that's designed to interact with the Studio Series 86 / Kingdom version of Blaster and the other cassette tapes. But at least they got the lion's head somewhat accurate to Steeljaw's animation model. Somewhat being a friendly word to describe it. And like I said, you can also attach Blaster's loudspeaker here on the back of him if you desire. And I believe the hole on the back is there's just enough space where you can slide it over Blaster's hand if you want, and you can have him wielding it there as well. But like I said, some Transformers fans and collectors were hoping that there might be another Transformers action figure besides Steeljaw. Might include a second loudspeaker here. But from what I've seen on the internet, it looks like the only way to get 2 of these speakers to give to Blaster is to buy a duplicate copy of Steeljaw. If you do decide to get a duplicate copy of Steeljaw to get 2 speakers for Blaster, if you want to be adventurous and put your painting and customizing skills to the test, in the Generation 1 line, Steeljaw was painted black, acts just like Ravage, and he was turned into another cassette tape for Blaster named Night Stalker, so you could customize a second copy of Steeljaw into being a new Night Stalker figure if you wanted. But yeah, that's pretty much everything there is to say about Steeljaw. And so to transform Frenzy into his alt mode of a cassette tape, first you have to remove the pile drivers, and if they're attached, and then flip them down. Rotate the head around 180 degrees, flip it into his back. There is barely just enough clearance space where you can flip his head away while his laser guns are still attached to his back. You can then bring his arms up to the top here at the shoulder. They're out of the box, they're very stiff. Oh yeah, that was really stiff. Okay, make sure they meet side by side, and then rotate and bring the legs up like so. Alright, and there is Frenzy transformed into his alt mode of a cassette tape, detaching the laser guns. He does have the same paint detailing, which was stickers on his Generation 1 action figure, so this is the front side of the cassette tape, and this is the back side, where you have his robot mode chest visible. As well, so yeah, really nice that they were able to replicate the stickers on his Generation 1 action figure as paint apps here on the new Studio Series 86 version of him. So, if you don't want to lose the laser guns, then similar to Steeljaw, you do have to keep them attached to Frenzy if you want all of his. If you want weapon storage, or when he's in his alt mode. Alt mode transforming Rumble, really fast, same transformation. So for a side-by-side comparison, here is Frenzy with Rumble. Pretty nice looking duo. Now as far as storage for the 2 pile drivers, with Rumble, this is the best weapon storage that I could find for the pile drivers, if I can pick them up without dropping them everywhere. be right back. Alright, now, when this mold was designed for Rumble in 2023, it was a retool of the Siege versions of Rumble and Frenzy that had been released back in 2019, and the original Siege versions of these two weren't designed to have the pile drivers attached to their arms. So unfortunately, there isn't any actual, to my knowledge, there isn't any actual weapon storage for the pile drivers when you transform Rumble and Frenzy into their alt modes of cassette tapes. And even here in the instructions, it doesn't show any weapon storage for the pile drivers. The only way to attach them is when they're transformed into their robot modes. There's no alt mode storage for the pile drivers. So, in the 1.5 years that I've owned Rumble, unfortunately, the best weapon storage for the pile drivers, so you have all the accessory pieces attached, is to leave them attached to the arms and just have them sitting like this. It's a stretch of the imagination, but you could imagine that it's almost like a type of spacecraft after that Rumble and Frenzy transform into, with the power drivers having rocket boosters here on the 5mm ports on the back of them. Like I said, it's a bit of a stretch of the imagination, but unfortunately this is the only weapon storage for the pile drivers when you have Rumble and Frenzy transformed into their alt modes. And I kind of wish, because of this, that there would have been... I kind of wish that Rumble and Frenzy, even though they would have been really small joints, I kind of wish the designers at Hasbro and Takara would have given them swivel joints. Because if you could have a swivel joint here for the bottom of the arm, then the pile driver could sit attaching in this direction, and then you could really have it look almost like a spacecraft. After with these with the pile drivers transforming into rocket boosters. But as it is, to my knowledge, there isn't any other weapon storage for the pile drivers, and there's no real way of attaching them. The robot mode feet for Rumble and Frenzy, they don't really attach to anything either. So yeah, the pile drivers unfortunately aren't designed to be stored in alternate mode, so this is the best transformation that I personally was able to come up with for alt mode storage of the pile drivers. If you can get the arms in this configuration right here, you can kind of lock them in place with those clips if they're sitting next to the robot mode shoulders, but it's friction that's holding them together, not any actual physical pegging into place. Okay, so just be mindful of that. Unfortunately, on my copy of Frenzy, his knee joints are much more loose than they are in Rumble, so he's not quite as stable with the power drivers attached in cassette mode than Rumble is. But it's just a fun little fan-made fan mode that I came up with for Rumble and Frenzy being able to store their pile drivers. So, for my final thoughts, as far as which figure is the better of the two, of these two core class figures that the review is focused on, Steeljaw and Frenzy, I still think Frenzy's the superior core class figure. He and Rumble are great fun to have, and I do enjoy that they came packaged with their, not only with their power drivers, but the laser guns that their G1 figures came with. Steeljaw, if he wasn't a parts former, then I'd say he would have been. Then it would have been. He would have been a much more decent Transformers action figure. But the fact that they made his spinal cord and his lion's tail detachable just so he could carry one of Blaster's loudspeakers on his back, I think that was. I think that could have gone better. I wish that we would have gotten two of the loudspeakers with the Studio Series 86 re-release of Kingdom Blaster. But yeah, for all the flaws he has, like I said at the start of the video, I do not regret getting Steeljaw and adding him to my Transformers collection. I still think he's a fun Transformers action figure, and I do enjoy now having both Rumble and Frenzy sitting side by side with each other again. So, as far as the proverbial question, do I recommend getting both of these core class figures and adding them to your collections? I only recommend getting Steeljaw if you're a completist and you want to have all of Blaster's Autobot cassettes standing beside him in battle. But if you have no interest in Steeljaw, for the sake of completing Blaster's team of Autobot cassettes, then he is an easy pass. For Frenzy, I do highly recommend getting him, even if you already have Studio Series 86 Rumble. You can't go wrong having both Rumble and Frenzy in your Transformers collection. So yeah, I do recommend getting Frenzy if you can find him. And if if you've added Frenzy to your collection and you don't have Rumble yet, I do recommend getting him as well. I highly recommend having both of them in your collection because they are a dastardly duo that helps serve Soundwave and Megatron. And I've always loved the main feature with Rumble and Frenzy is that they can use their pile drivers to generate small earthquakes. So thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been the TFN Geek. This has been my double review of Studio Series 86 Red Frenzy and Studio Series 86 Steeljaw. These are the final individually packaged core class Transformers that I've personally added to my Transformers collection. So what the future holds for 2 to 3 inch tall size Transformers action figures. Will we get more of them, or will the ones that, or if we don't, are they discontinued forever? If we do get them, will they be released in larger inside as accessory pieces for larger size Transformers action figures, such as Ramhorn and Ratbat being released with Studio Series X Perceptor, or as you can see over my shoulder behind me, Bullseye being packaged with the Target version of Optimus Prime. It's yet to be known. But until then, and thank you guys all so much for watching, and until next time, this has been the TFN Geek, and please remember to stay safe, stay healthy, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.